Welcome to the Persistence Pays podcast. I'm Sean Taylor with my co-host, Joe Shaw, an author of the book Persistence Pays. Today we're talking about something every entrepreneur understands, even if they don't always say it out loud. The hustle, the grind, the long days, the tight cash flow, the pressure to produce when no one sees the sacrifice. If you're building something from the ground up, if you're carrying responsibility that most people don't see, if you're determined not just to survive, but to scale, this conversation is for you.
All jobs are not profitable jobs.
No.
And some jobs, it's going to take a whole lot of activity even to put the numbers together. Mm-hmm. And if you can assess whether it's a go or no go mm-hmm. on the front end, mm-hmm. before you put all that activity and all that busyness into something to turn out that we're not going to bid it or we didn't put the numbers together. And now we're losing money.
Yep. And I'm going to tell you, 90% of putting together a comprehensive bid is knowing how to read those plans, number one. And number two, your quantities. You put your quantities together right, and you know how to read those plans. Because I remember one time I was helping this company do a bid for concrete, and they didn't capture the footers. And so all that concrete they needed to put those footers in, they didn't have in their bid, you know. Because I'm reviewing the bids that they had done, they didn't put the footers in the calculation for the concrete. So their concrete calculation was off. And I'm like, you know, these are the things that you got to be mindful of. But they ain't really, the person they had putting the bid together didn't really know how to read the plans.
Well, you know, I talk to a lot of people and they talk about AI. Mm-hmm. And AI can help you, but AI can't do everything.
And AI is only as good as what you input.
Right. So you can take, and I've done this many times, I do it. You can take an RFP, mm-hmm. we call it the anatomy of an RFP.
Yeah.
The anatomy is the breakdown. So I can take the RFP now and put in a prompt that I've set up mm-hmm. in ChatGPT, mm-hmm. and it'll list all of the deliverables. Mm-hmm. So once I get all of the deliverables, which is basically what they're paying us to deliver, mm-hmm. I got the list, but I still got to do the calculations and do all of the details. I got to focus on the details, but now I know what I'm looking for.
Exactly.
And so if I didn't know that I had to have that bid bond, if I had been able to do it and say, oh man, make sure you get the bid bond.
Exactly.
Then I still got to go get the bid bond.
Exactly.
I still got to get in touch with the insurance company, let them know what the amount's going to be, mm-hmm. basically what my bid is. Yeah. I got to do it in a timely manner to get to the insurance company, to get the bid bond. So all that's got to still be done with the detail and the precision that it takes to be effective and to win the job.
Yeah.
But you can now go to ChatGPT and say, what do I have to do? And when you look at that, that may tell you whether it's a go or no go.
Yeah, agreed.
If I say, well, you got to have a person that's got this credential to this credential, do I have that? Can I buy it?
Exactly.
Do I know somebody I can, we always used to say, sell your strengths, buy your weaknesses.
Buy your weaknesses,
So if it's something I don't have, can I go buy it?
Exactly.
What is it going to cost? Can I get them available to bid a part of this proposal, part of this bid? Mm-hmm. If you know you can't get it, you're just wasting your time.
Exactly, spinning your wheel.
You know, and I say, well, how many bid? Oh man, we bidding on a lot of stuff. How many you winning?
Exactly. That's being busy instead of being profitable.
Yeah, how many well, we don't know. Why you don't know? You should be tracking that.
Exactly.
Not only the ones you win, but the ones you lose. How much did you lose by?
Exactly.
You know, do you need to adjust your overhead?
Exactly.
You need to adjust your profit. If you're adjusting your overhead, what can we cut out?
Exactly.
So all of that is stuff that AI can't do for you.
No.
I mean, they can tell you
where it's only as good as what you put into it.
They tell you what direction to go in,
exactly.
but you got to know what you're doing when you get there.
Exactly.
But yeah, busy. Some people are so busy, but at the end of the day, they ain't making no money.
No, exactly.
And if you ain't making no money, you're going to be out of business.
Exactly.
Here's another question I want to ask you. Then
before that statement right there too, when you say, you know, making money versus accomplishing your goal, right? So for a business, you know, that it's important to keep things in perspective. So the ultimate goal is to make money, right? But how do you make money? Acquiring customers, right? So Your ultimate goal is acquiring customers.
Absolutely.
That's where you gotta. So a lot of people, they look at business as I need to make money, and that's a different mindset than acquiring customers.
Absolutely.
Get what I'm saying?
Yeah, talk more about that.
So acquiring customers, what's my cost of acquisition of a customer? What do I have to pay for leads? What's the time involved in it? What do I have to produce to acquire this customer? What if I'm a storefront? How do I drive foot traffic into there? Like, those are the things that are more important than immediately how much I'm making, because that's what leads to how much you make.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. and so we call those hidden costs.
Exactly.
And so if we analyze your business, then we're gonna ask that question: what's your hidden costs?
Exactly.
Well, I got people out here, going out doing new business development. Okay, well, how much time are they spending out there? Well, they spending 40 hours a week. What's the win rate?
Exactly.
How many leads are they getting?
Exactly.
Are they good leads? Are they quality leads? Or they just numbers? Because you're saying I'll pay you on so many leads.
Exactly.
So it's that analysis that we really help people with, and it's not that we got all the answers, but we know what to look for.
Exactly. And again, a different set of eyes that's not so close to the day-to-day, that we can see the things that may be right in front of you that you can't see.
And we don't charge a lot for it.
Yeah.
I mean, it ain't a whole lot that we charging.
Exactly.
But man, this is some of the most valuable information that a business can have, is to say, what's my gap?
Exactly.
If I can figure out my gap and I can close that gap,
exactly,
then I'm cooking with gas, as
there
they
you go.
say. I'm rolling. How do you track whether efforts is producing return? I think you talked a lot about it, the BMI. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So typically you're managing performance through KPIs, right? Key point indicators, right? But the way you're establishing that is based on the business intelligence analytical data that you're getting, the BI data, and that's basically tracking the matriculation of what your business does through its process, through its workflow, and that allows you to see any bottlenecks that you may have. So we making all these sales, but they're not turning into orders being placed, right? So many of them are canceling before order, or whatever the case may be, right? Let's say you have a 3-day right of rescission, right? And I got all these sales that they've sold, but then when they net out, I only have a fraction of that, right? So what's driving that? That data is what tells you where the bottleneck is that's keeping it from going from one bucket to the next, that ultimately results in the profit in the end.
So when you did the financials class at Columbia University, y'all talked about a lot of this. And so I think the benefit for you is you were already working.
Yeah.
And so when you learned it, it just clicked.
Exactly.
It made sense. The problem we see a lot is you got a lot of business owners who have an MBA, but they never had a business, or they never worked in a area of responsibility for a business. So a lot of it don't click.
Oh, exactly.
Until somebody who's been there, done it, can come and say, okay, I know you learned this in college. Let me show you how it works in the real world.
Yeah.
In a business.
Yeah.
And
a lot of times too, from a small business perspective, you got a lot, especially in the trades businesses, like putting roofs on, swapping windows, or doing entry doors, things of that nature. A lot of times the people that own those businesses, like on a smaller scale, they may be making $30 million, but they just know how to install doors or install windows. They just know how to put a roof on. They're good at it. They're not necessarily the one. They're not necessarily skilled at running a business. So their method is, or their plan is to, I'm gonna just make so much that I have enough money to throw at the mistake, and hopefully in the end, I make some money in the end, right?
I don't want to see what my numbers look like.
Yeah, I don't want to see that, because I just want to make enough to have enough to cover or to float whatever the problems I may encounter, so that in the end, hopefully I make some profit, right?
Yeah, I work with a lot of guys, man, who they had a factor that they put on stuff.
Yeah.
And the factor worked. And so like this one guy, when he was teaching me how to estimate, one time he said, get your materials, and whatever your materials cost, double it for your labor, and put that together. And and he won jobs that way.
Yeah.
But
were they profitable in the end?
we don't know.
Exactly. Hence my point.
We just put that factor on it. But take 2 times this and divide it by this, and then see what the win looks like. And if you do that, you're going to win.
You're going to win.
Well, you may have won it that one day when you said, man, the wind's blowing my way. But you didn't analyze. You don't know, did you win? Did you lose?
And see, those are the people that's juggling material expenses. So, for example, they'll be like, I'll pay you on a net 90. Well, we need it on a net 30. Well, they juggling the invoices because they didn't properly plan the budget out, the estimate out.
Yeah, there's an old saying for that too. Yeah, robbing Peter to pay Paul.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what's happening.
And you can do that sometimes and get away with it.
Yeah, but that should be a way of life.
Right. Sometimes if you had a mistake, you might say, okay, what's in our backlog?
Exactly.
I'm gonna take some profit from this
to cover that,
and I'm gonna move it over here to cover this. But even when you do that, you need to put some type of notation with it.
Exactly.
Because now that makes this job look in the red. Mm-hmm. And you say, well, I'm going to intentionally put this at break even to cover this.
Yeah.
But we can't keep doing that.
That can't be a way of life. Exactly.
Sooner or later, you ain't going to have nothing to rob from Peter.
Exactly.
If you got a backlog, but if you ain't got no backlog,
exactly,
where you going to get it from?
You don't.
You're going to borrow it. You're going to borrow from the bank or somewhere.
And then you could do what we call living on the line. And let me tell you, living on the line is expensive because you're paying interest.
Well, you can live on the line sometimes to get started. It just depends.
Yeah.
There's factoring companies.
Exactly.
And so you can go to a factoring company and they'll give you the money.
Yeah.
Or it could be a venture capitalist or whoever.
Yeah.
But you're going to pay for that money.
Exactly.
Now, if your customer, if they can't absorb some of that cost, you want them to absorb all of it. But if they can't, you need to get away from the factoring company as quick as you can.
Exactly. Because a lot of times those repayment terms are unrealistic too. You're going to pay interest bi-weekly and stuff like that. You'll never dig out of that.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about banking. Now we're on this. You've talked a lot with a lot of people about just things about their credit, how to get their credit repaired, about banking strategies. Can you just give our audience some tips about banking and credit repair? Because a lot of people who are running businesses, if they could get their credit rating better and have more favorable terms, like you were mentioning, then it could help them grow their business.
Well, a lot of times, especially small businesses, they don't understand how business credit is established. They try to use the same rules that personal credit is built on to build business credit, and they're categorically different.
Okay, talk about
business credit is built off of trade lines, whereas your personal credit is built off of accounts. So like you're penalized for using more than 30% of your credit on a personal scale. You're incentivized to use credit from a business perspective, you know what I mean? But it's built through trade lines. So a trade line is like where you get your materials from. So if you set up, you could if you starting out, right, as a business and you gotta buy paper towels and tissue and cleaning supplies for the office and all that stuff, you can set up an account with Uline, and now that becomes a trade line for you. And this is stuff you gotta buy anyway, plates and cleaning supplies and garbage bags and stuff like this for your spot. You just set up an account. Now you're paying it on an invoice scale rather than you going to the Walmart and just buying garbage bags to put into the office. You've created a trade line now that you can build your business credit with.
But here's the objection that people say, well, I can get it cheaper at Costco or Sam's or one of them. You can,
but then you can leverage that business credit though through that trade line to get business capital.
Right. And so that's just a quick tip for you that's out there. And you need to talk to Sean because he knows a lot of these tips. And these tips build your business. They help you. Because, a lot of people say, well, I don't pay cash for everything. Okay, well, you can, but now you don't have any.
You need business credit, though, because you need to be able to, if your goal is to scale the business up, if your goal is to be constrained by what you have in your pocket, then that's perfect fine to pay everything by cash. But if you want to scale that business up, you're going to have to come up with some form of business credit, some form of business capital to operate with.
There's an old saying that you gotta spend some money to make some money.
Make some money. There you go.
Yeah, you gotta spend some money now.
And scared money don't make money.
Scared money don't make money. Yeah. But that's where persistence pays.
Exactly.
Though, because you saying, well, I want this thing to turn around in this time period, and that may not be the season.
Exactly.
You know, you sowing some seeds.
No, exactly.
But if I'm sowing, in April, my corn ain't gonna come up in May.
Exactly.
It's gonna be in August before it come up. So can I live in that investment until harvest time?
There you go.
And so those are things you analyze, but sometimes you need that business credit to get you to harvest time. We think about sharecroppers way back in the day. A part of why that system was so devastating to a lot of sharecroppers is because they were working on credit, but when harvest time came, they were still in the hole because they were being cheated.
Yep.
They weren't they weren't keeping up.
No.
Some of them who were smart enough to keep up.
Yeah.
And then they challenged the person they were getting credit for, and then they were getting, you wrong, But you have to have time you have to have credit until harvest time comes.
Exactly.
But you don't want to lose all your money when harvest time comes. And so that's why analyzing, looking at your books, profit, loss, balance sheet, all of that, and understand how it plays into the business.
Exactly.
And a lot of people just don't know that, and that's why we're here. I mean, we can help people. We can make an impact. Just call us, contact us, set up a consultation time. It's gonna cost you for the consult, but look how much you can really benefit by having just some knowledge. Because, like I say, knowledge is power. When you apply that power, then you make an impact.
There you go.
You make an impact not only for your business, but for the families that you're dealing with.
Yeah. As we close this conversation, I want to leave you with something simple. This podcast exists because experience has value, but only when it's shared. If you've carried responsibility, if you've made hard decisions, if you've recovered from setbacks, then you understand something important. Success isn't accidental. It's built on standards, built on systems, built on consistency over time. My hope is that Persistent Pays becomes more than a podcast. I hope it becomes a reference point for disciplined leadership, a reminder that structure protects vision, and proof that steady execution outperforms hype. If you've been listening, thank you. If you're building something under pressure, stay with it. Stay accountable, stay focused, stay persistent, because in the end, persistence pays. I'm Sean Taylor. Until next time.